Hello and welcome to another episode of They Don't Teach Us in Law School. I'm your host, Charley Mann of Law Firm Alchemy and Red Kraken Creative, and I am stoked to talk to a fellow redhead today, someone who I have known for a long time, who I have watched him grow his firm out in Boston and really just pursue this aggressively entrepreneurial life, who embraces some of the sacrifices that comes with it, but also tries to carve out time for the things that mean the most to him as well. I think, trying to always fight the good fight, which is not always an easy thing. Maybe we'll even get into that during this. And as you know, you should call early before it's too late. My guest today is Chris Earley. Chris, great to see you, buddy.
Charley, man, my brother, thank you so much. I've been trying to get on your podcast for so long. I worked hard to get here, so I'm excited to talk with you, man.
You're part of this. So, Chris, like a little behind the scenes here, and I was joking with Adam Rawson about it recently. There's a cadre of folks who I would swear on the lives of my children have already been on this show. And you were among that cadre.
I'm pumped.
I know. And so the good news is we are here now. We are making it happen. And you get to answer the question, Chris, what's the one thing they don't teach you in law school?
I thought a lot about this, and my answer is customer service. How to provide customer service, not client service, customer service.
Oh, okay. I like the delineation.
I had a good conversation with a lawyer a couple weeks ago, and he said, he's an entrepreneur. He said, we're just running restaurants here. And I said, that's an interesting point. So I thought of Unreasonable Hospitality, the book. So that really cemented in my brain. We own a restaurant, as a lot. Most people on this call are law firm owners or aspiring to be. We have the restaurant smells a certain way, it looks a certain way, feels a certain way. How's the service? That's what I didn't get any of in law school. I went to law school 20 years ago. Hopefully things have changed since then. But if you can focus on the customer, the experience, I think you're gonna crush it.
So you have that delineation there. It's not necessarily client service, it's customer service. So how does that reframe the thought process for you?
I serve people, right? I think law school is like, ivory tower, we have a law degree, we're somehow special. Hell no, we are servants. And once I got on that, Charley, I was like, okay, I get it now. And what happens? It creates connection. It separates you, because a lot of lawyers, we go to these events, Charley, we know so many lawyers, there's a lot of ego. You can take that away, serve, open up that restaurant and give the best freaking unreasonable hospitality experience you can give. I think you're way ahead of almost everybody, man.
So what do you do for your firm to try and create that unreasonable hospitality, that level of customer service?
Through Kaizen. So daily small improvements. We survey clients. And I just went to the PILMA conference this week, and I took away from the brilliant Cassidy Lewis
She's great.
Not only survey clients, she's wonderful, not just survey their clients, ask the client who their case manager is. Really silo these surveys, who's your attorney, so you can really get feedback and work on that. So we're constantly asking for feedback, and that's how we improve the experience. We send a nice package out to the client. Once they become a client, they get a nice package. There's an unboxing experience that they experience, because we want to push away any kind of buyer's remorse, right? Because people just made a big decision. They hired a lawyer. Is Chris really the right one for me? Did I make a mistake? Well, we're going to hit you with a nice box. So that early, no pun intended, that early experience is really important. And so that's where it's at. Like, make the client happy. Like, really work hard at that. Get a little bit better each day. I had one client, Charley, recently say, okay, enough with the surveys. And then I was like, good. Okay, I'm glad I annoyed him. Now I'm on to something.
It's like with my kids when they're playing sports and they're so afraid to get a foul. I'm like, no, get a foul so you know where the line is, and then you can play within 100%. The boundary.
100%. Don't tell me what we're doing right. Tell me how to swing the bat better, how we can improve on the field, for sure. Definitely.
So you've had, a significant growth journey over the last 5, 6, 7 years. For you along the way, you've been cataloging a lot of lessons online, and there are clearly themes that resonate most frequently through you. What are some of the big core principles for Chris that you've picked up along the way?
Perseverance. Because I'll be upfront and transparent. I'm always getting my ass kicked, Charley. Anyone listening to this, scaling a firm knows, you're getting pummeled each day. And that's been very sobering and humbling because, to be honest
Mm.
with you, this journey of scaling was harder than I anticipated.
Mm.
Now, you came into my life, Ben Glass came into my life, I think 2019. At that point, I had a very, very, very low 7-figure practice, doing well. Then I wanted more, and I thought the scaling would be easier. So I've been humbled by that journey because
Mm.
it is an ass whooping. And so that is my theme. I talk on LinkedIn every day about my journey of struggle, of usually, talking about baseball again, swinging the bat, most times missing, but we connect. We see wins and we keep building on those things. So we catalog that, talk about that on LinkedIn, talk about that on my podcast, The Earley Show. So this stuff is hard. You have to be really tough. And that has been the biggest lesson I've taken away is be gritty and keep grinding because shit's tough.
Yeah, you got to keep showing up. I know that you've made some big decisions along the way, like carving out time for family or waking up early. What are can you? Yeah. By the way, universally, everyone, if we say the word early, just assume we definitely used it because it's Chris's last name. The same way that if someone uses the name man around the word man around me, let's just assume it's a pun, and they meant to do it to us, right?
Puns are
You and I
dripping
had,
on this, saturating
yeah.
this episode. I love it.
Absolutely. Like we just gotta with last names like ours, we just have to lean into it,
Well, absolutely.
and
All
just
day.
accept who we are. So like what are some of the big choices? Let's start with big payoffs. What are some of the big choices that you made that have had positive payoff for you?
Obsessing about making the team member experience really good because I had attrition when I first started to change things because, as you know, when you grow, things break, you lose people. I've really tried to focus in on talk about buyer's regret, that
Yeah.
when a team member comes on board, they are saturated with positive signals that they've joined the right law firm, and I try to always support them. So I really lean into the team aspect. And what happens is it sort of congeals, attrition reduces, retention increases. So that I think has been helpful and transformative is getting the team set right through so many, Charley, so many trials, so many errors,
Yeah.
but getting a good team stacked together. Then you find you have good culture. Because speaking of surveys, I survey my team every month. How am I doing? Like, where can I do better for you? Because I think I got this from Gary Vee or someone. I work for them. They don't work for me. And I demonstrate that. That's about humbleness. That's about humility. That's about, I serve them. And obviously they serve me too. It's a two-way street here. This is
Yeah.
this is
Yes.
it's a commercial transaction. However, I'm not I'm not in left field thinking like I'm at all superior. We're on the same level. And I always ship, I lean into that all the time. And I try to get their trust. And I think that has been super helpful is getting people to feel like they belong to something special that's growing fast, that's serving people. And they tend to, as of late, stick around, which is really nice to see.
In getting that buy-in from a tactical level, what are some of the things that you're doing to improve team buy-in and retention?
So I'll do little things like I have a calendar reminder every month, give individual shout outs or else I'll get lost. Try like you, I'm always busy, hair on fire, doing 100 things on the calendar. I think it was yesterday or today. I have to check, but I have to do it this week. Is a random shout out. Charley, thank you so much for what you do on this team. You're very valuable. I really rely on you, Charley. I appreciate you. And they get right back to me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Like stuff like that. Just like showing them love. And like I obsess about that because it's hard to find people. It's hard to keep people. And so that has been because the way you treat them, as you know very well, is the way they're going to treat the clients. So it's this sort of this wheel of this triangle, if you will, or wheel of activity that feeds on each other, right? Happy team members, happy clients. What does that help me to do? Well, to have a better life with my family. If the firm is in a good spot, a healthy spot, it's thriving, it's growing. Yeah, we get punched in the face, but we get up, we keep improving and learning from those failures and try to get a little bit better each day.
You mentioned, the kind of the hair on fire thing. How are you taking care of yourself in the middle of all of this?
Great question. That's like the best question is I meditate. I talk about this openly. I'm going to get in front of some lawyers, some trial lawyers in Massachusetts next week, and I'm going to talk about wellness and my journey. And I found meditation to be very helpful for me in being a better, most important, father and husband. And then that translates into the professional sphere, because you can't like have your shit together in your office and your personal life in chaos. Like you can't do that. So if anyone listening to this thinks there's a bifurcation, a separation between like work and home, like no, it's one thing here, right? One existence. So meditation really helped me, Charlie, to like grow as a business owner. Again, better parent, much better parent. I hope much better husband too. Because this stuff is stressful. And meditation. Do you meditate or no?
I have it in my toolbox, but it is not a daily habit. I use it
Fair.
regularly. Meditation, a little bit more for me, concerted time in prayer specifically.
Awesome. Very
Yeah,
cool.
but
Well,
meditation is something I'll drop into.
but whatever it is that gives you space, like that's what I
Yeah.
call it, right? If prayer gives you space, freaking lean into that, right? As you do. And so that has been really helpful. And I get on my soapbox all day talking about meditation because like for me that works, but like maybe it's like journaling has been helpful for me as well. Those two daily things, like religiously, have
Yeah.
helped me not get so stressed and just keep persevering through the challenges, being more present. I read a lot of Stoicism. I'm into Ryan Holiday. This journey is short, so you got to be happy. Got to enjoy what we're doing here and be in the moment. It's hard,
Yeah.
Theme, hair on fire. So how do you have your hair on fire? Be so ambitious, but like be
Yeah.
present and anchored in the moment. That's the challenge. That's what I find super interesting.
Oh, I agree with you. The duality of life, and so many dualities, especially as an entrepreneur, where you have to balance an entrepreneur who is a father. You have younger kids right now who are in a really fun phase of life that you want to be present
Totally,
for.
totally,
But at the same
totally.
time, you also know, like, hey, Chris has like these gifts and skills that he would like to express into the world because, yes, while my kid's journey is starting and I want to be there for it, Chris still exists as his own human being with things to
Totally.
accomplish. And
100%.
I know that you've made some decisions to try and balance that out. Like, how do you try and keep that balance of I'm showing up for them, but I'm also showing up for myself?
I think time management, and I never even
Yeah.
probably heard of time management before I found you and Ben Glass back in the day. Time management, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so many lawyers I think just get distracted, and I don't have this mastered. I'm a student of time management, but like once I got dialed in, the low hanging fruit, no more unscheduled phone calls. Done. No more random. No more random meetings. What my biggest lesson from Dan Kennedy was erect walls that are like miles and miles high around yourself, right?
Yeah.
Literally, like just like be on, like the more hard you are to reach, the more people value your time.
Hmm.
So I think time management has been super helpful. Delegation, we talk about this stuff all the time, but like really intentional time management, really intentional delegation. Because I know why I do this whole thing is for my family. So we have freedom, a good life, opportunities. I'm putting my kids into, they're in private school. Like I have, I hate to say it again, hair on fire. Okay, how do I get the next case? How do I improve my culture, my team? How do I get better? Because that's my why. So I learned that from you and Ben when I first started the journey with you guys. Okay, I know my why. So how do we reverse engineer that? Because it's
Mm.
not that complicated. It's not like some tricky algebra here. It's just like, okay, we're going on a linear journey here. So let's know where we're
Yeah.
going, and let's get going and work our tails off to get there.
So I asked you earlier about, a really positive decision. Let me ask the inverse. What's something that you made a decision on? Maybe you felt really confident about it and ended up either being way more challenging than you expected it or having worse consequences than you could have anticipated.
I put some people in leadership positions who are not ready for that, and that was a big fat failure.
Mm.
Did the EOS thing with people, and shortly thereafter, EOS is good because it smokes people out. It
Yeah.
smokes out the believers from the non-believers, and my firm grew by that. That was a terrible time, Charlie. Like talk about
Yeah.
punches in the face. Like that was two attorneys back to back that dropped out. Well, they're thriving somewhere else, and I'm thriving too, and my firm is thriving. So things happen for a reason, but you can't. I think it's called Peter's principle, right? You can't elevate to people's
Yes.
level of incompetence, right? You know that. So okay, so how do we avoid that? So that was a lesson learned. Like I thought, oh, like I don't want to lose lawyers. So I got to put them on leadership to show you're invested in them. No, no, no. That was a big fat. painful, expensive lesson.
Unfortunately, I've seen that many, many times. I love and believe in EOS, but I have seen it cost many businesses, good, especially law firms, good people, because it puts them onto leadership, and because you have to have a leadership team to sort of have the structure in place. And so by necessity, they get put up there because at the time, they're the people who you would say, like, I guess these are my leaders. But, they're the leaders for today, not the ones to take you to tomorrow.
No, 100%. And that's normal and that's healthy. You have to keep changing the team, because they say when things double in size, they break, with an organization, like a business entity. So you have to be, you can't be so hungry to promote people quickly. You have to be kind of sober on that. You want to keep them, but do it in the right way. I did it so much, Charlie. I would elevate, receptionist, case manager, it just didn't work out for anyone. So I've learned from that and gotten a little bit better with that stuff,
I also know you to be a voracious student of marketing, which is a topic that, near and dear to our collective hearts here. What are you doing today? Like, what are you doing today, marketing wise, that has evolved over time?
Honestly, networking is I'm just going to get a little philosophical. My whole approach to marketing is to try to be a tsunami. I try to be everywhere because I have the energy, God willing, that remains to do that. So the daily LinkedIn post, daily YouTube video. I just met with a new contact, new attorney here in my town just before our meeting today. Always, I go back to Dan Kennedy, all these lines in the water, right? Putting these ships out to sea. Sorry with all the nautical terms, but like action, right? Like just always doing. That's like, I'm not, some killer trial lawyer, but I like the business side. So I like hunting down the business, giving it to the trial lawyer to handle, because I love the business development. So I'm really a big believer in personally being a tsunami, because I'll do that. I call it sort of shoveling shit. I'll do the daily stuff that, it sucks, but like I'm too dumb to know better. I'm too dumb to quit. So I just keep shoveling shit. And what happens, Charlie, you start to get people recognize that. They see, Earley, I know your slogan, or I see you coming up, and that's humbling. And it's like, okay, like let's keep working, keep going at it, because this stuff is hard. Keep showing up, doing those reps in the gym. But you can't give up. That's the thing. I know the theme of this call is like challenge, but this is really challenging stuff. We're being super honest. He who can persevere and do that daily stuff without giving up and being deterred, I think wins and can really design the best life for themselves possible.
So speaking to the duality that we talked about earlier, perseverance is one side of it. How will Chris know when it's time to move out of that phase? And what's the next level?
I think for me, so again, talking about just going back to the marketing for a second, being a tsunami, I think you have to be really patient. That's what I need to get better at, is being patient with stuff. Because, if your hair's on fire, like it's on fire. You're not going to calmly say my hair's on fire. Like, oh shit, my hair's on fire. Let's go. Let's get after it. And so my biggest challenge, I feel like, not burning people out. I've got more sensitive to that on my team. Like, all right, not everyone, their name is on the door, so they don't have the type of investment naturally that I have, and that's okay. How can I motivate but not burn people out? Right. That's the thing. But at the end of the day, the business should serve you not serve the business. But what I'm doing, Charlie, isn't very sophisticated. It's more ugly, the daily stuff, but it really truly adds up. I encourage the audience, post to LinkedIn once a day, literally, not a couple, like every day. Make a YouTube video every day, like a maniac, like me, and I really network your butt off and get speaking gigs, get on podcasts. Like you and I are doing back-to-back podcast episodes. We leverage our marketing assets, right? So it's going to hit so many people. That's why I was stalking you so long to do this. So, Anyway, that's Earley's lesson. Be everywhere you can possibly be. Just you know, it'd be hard not to see you popping up everywhere because people start to notice that, and that tends to generate a lot of business, and it's been very good so far. So blessed.
On the perseverance side, because I love poking around on this. Do you have something that you've done in the last 2 to 4 years where it's something that you've been persevering at, but you were willing to finally say, it's time for me to lay down my sword on this one because this is no longer part of my journey. I don't have to persevere in this anymore.
Well, a cautionary tale that I can share is I grew too fast. I was like burning cash, and I was spending a lot, and the growth, the cases weren't coming in to support that overall expenditure. So I learned from that. I scaled things back. I was just at this conference, and they were talking about Vern Harnish talks about the valley of death or something like that, where like you grow and then you hit this chasm. Well, that chasm was a little longer than I expected because I didn't grow smartly. I grew too aggressively. The hair was like a bonfire on fire. So I was like, all right, chill out, Early. Let's like scale back. So I really started to dial into the numbers, look at P&Ls and understand, I'm a data junkie. And when I met you, like, I didn't even know what a spreadsheet was, Charlie. I had no freaking clue. I didn't want to know. I didn't care. But now it's like I geek out. So you got to know your numbers. You got to know your data. I think it's super important.
What are when you started to get more involved with your finances and looking at them, what were some of the numbers that you prioritized and helped tell you the story of your law firm?
I think I stole this from you. You talked about intakes, demand, settlements, right? Just basic, general table stakes, right? Every lawyer on this call should know that. If you don't, you got to get that figured out. It's not that hard. You got to know that stuff, and then you get deeper. You get a little more sophisticated, a little more like, ooh, I can track that. Like really. Again, this conference I just went to, I want to share this. The speaker has a $16 million law firm. He said his most important KPI is client contact. I think you have to talk to the clients. That's super important. The more you do that, I feel like the more growth you're going to have. So lawyers listening to this, they don't have any KPIs. That's okay. I can tell you from hard-learned experience, you need KPIs. Your receptionist, our receptionist is KPI. Answer the phone in 2 rings. Google's tracking it. We're tracking it. Everyone, demands, attorneys, fees, all that stuff. We have to have KPIs set up. And then I can take a step back and let the KPIs be the bad guy. It's like I'm not being the bad guy. It's like the lean on the KPIs, right? With intake, this is our conversion percentage for last month. Fell short. How can we improve upon that? It's all data, Charlie. This is all numbers. That's all this is. It's just math. It's pretty simple math too.
Yeah, I find that maturing firms, they all get to a point where it is spreadsheets, essentially. The larger the firm grows, the more spreadsheet driven it functionally becomes. And for some, that's really exciting. For some, it feels like a death for them.
Yeah.
And some will self-defeat as they get towards that process. So it sounds like you've embraced that. Were you always a data person, or a learned behavior?
Learned. Very, very new. 6 years at this point. I didn't really care to go there, Charlie. It's like I'm getting cases again, low 7-figure practice, doing well, but I didn't know jack about a business, right? I didn't know what I was doing, but I still don't know what I'm doing today, but just learned a few lessons along the way and things not to do. That's where I'm better. But yeah, just this is math. And as you grow a firm, as you scale a firm, you leverage math.
Yeah.
Like, I saw an insight yesterday, and this day I'm like a light bulb went off. Okay, got to work on that. Dial that in because that's going to move the firm forward. That micro piece of data, that metric, is literally like going to change the firm in a positive way. So lean on that stuff. If you're busy, lean on someone else. Right? There's a plethora. You can get a fractional, financial person to help you, track this stuff. But if it doesn't get measured, it doesn't get done. Right? So you have to really hold on to the reins of your financial. And again, learn from my lesson. I grew too fast, Charlie. Spend arrogantly, like, hey, just keep spending. It's going to happen. Well, that got me into, trouble. It was tough. So lesson learned. Okay. But like, I look at that not as a setback, but like, okay, we grew from that. Like that was a mistake. So we're learning from it. So you have to give yourself tolerance and grace. Everyone on this call is, again, growing a firm or soon to be growing a firm. You have to be positive. And that's where meditation helps me, is to not get too down or, too high on things. Just kind of keep it steady, keep it moderate, be willing to deal with those punches in the face. When things are going good, yeah, enjoy that. But that's only so long it's going to last. Something is going to, surprise you at some point. You got to deal with it. It's how you look at it. Like that, the financial thing was just a leap forward, not a leap back for me. So it took me time to figure that out, but it's all about how you look at it, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of associate you, Chris, with being a happy yet serious individual, I think is the way that I would describe you. And because having had the opportunity to have conversations with you that have been fairly deep as well.
Yeah.
You share pretty openly your story about how things started out for you after law school, kind of dealing with it, going through the thick of it. And for you, whether in the past lows that you've experienced or perhaps lows that you've experienced over the last 3, 5, 10 years, and we all go through them, right? Like literally every human being goes through them.
Totally.
Aside from, say, the meditation, the stoicism, how do you recognize when you're headed in that direction now and course correct yourself?
In terms of negativity or?
Yeah, in terms of either negativity or burnout or just that you can feel the slide. I feel like every person I've worked with has that slide.
No, 100%. I hate to say it, but again, I think meditation for me has been my space. Journaling is a nice complement to that. It's a gratitude journal. I write 3 things that went well yesterday, because I wrote a memoir, Scaling the Wall. It was all about how shitty things were for a long time, which has turned into nothing short of a mammoth blessing for me and my family. So like, it's how we look at things, our perception of things. But you have to get your emotions in check, your mind in check to be a healthy law firm owner. And I don't have like the playbook. I'm just doing Earley's, version of it. But I find when you can quiet that noise in your head, quiet the interference, you get focused, right? We talked about time management. We talked about, delegation, just like you can be a happy lawyer. I think I took that, from you and Ben back in the day. You can actually run a business as a lawyer, which is hard as hell, and be happy. I think you can have your cake and eat it too, if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to invest and do the hard stuff for a long period of time. How long can you do the hard stuff for without quitting? Charley, my wife and I have had innumerable conversations like, I just want to burn the place down. I'm just going to work for myself and go back to a nice income. Right? It's like, why are we doing this? She's like, get back in, and tomorrow's gonna be a better day. And like, it's all like, I'm the king of negative thinking, Charley. So once I pivoted that, everything has been on an upward trajectory. God willing, that will continue. But let me share one thing. I'm very vulnerable. Like in my book, I am naked with vulnerability, embarrassingly so. So I share that. The lawyer I just met with 2 hours ago, I just dropped my book. Hey, please read my book if you like. I know you purchased my book, and I appreciate the support. I just went to a conference. I gave that book out to everybody. So the people are like, holy shit, this guy actually wrote this down. And it was tough for my wife, because I was sharing stuff about our journey together that wasn't so favorable, and put her in a tough spot, the things that she had experienced. But I think vulnerability, maybe it's with age. I'm 48. Maybe with age comes a little bit more knowledge and wisdom. But I've become so vulnerable with my staff, with everyone, with the world, with my book. So if you're willing to be vulnerable, I feel like the universe rewards you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's weird.
The whole idea of being willing to share your story. So there's a Brene Brown quote: "Your story is someone else's survival guide." And I mean, obviously you made a very literal example of that with scaling the wall where you're, I mean, I remember my parents, you'll appreciate this because so much of your book is about being in your 30s, right? Dealing with
Yes,
that decade.
totally.
And my parents told me your 20s are going to be hard. Your 30s will be really good. No, my 20s were great. My 30s, that's where the real stuff started to set in. And all the transformation and there are actual hard things about this, like hard things that are magnified by 5, 10x what the difficulties were that you experienced in your 20s. And you had to build a lot of tools fast at times and I know that you used outside resources, therapy, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Going
Oh yeah,
through all of those to deal with the angry young man, and I think a lot of them
totally,
have the angry young man in them.
totally.
How what were some of the best tools for you in obviously finding stoicism, etc., but even other books, therapy, etc., that helped handle that angry young man?
Those are all the elements. I mean that I was at risk of losing my wife. She's like, you need help. You're very angry. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what? Like, I truly didn't know the scope, but when your spouse puts a mirror in front of your face, it's like, do you see this? Is that the dude you want to be? It's like, oh, okay. So, I didn't want to lose my wife, and I didn't want to I wanted to be a father, a present father, which I didn't have. And
Yeah.
so that pain from those early years came to roost in my 30s, Charley. And that's what I wrote about in the memoir, Scaling the
Yeah.
Wall, is that I was effed up. I was an angry lawyer. I was snappy. I really wanted to antagonize you. I did that professionally and personally in relationships. And my wife stuck with me, and our marriage has never been better. I'm calmer. And I'm telling you, like, the business is a product of what you think about and how you look at things.
Yeah.
The journey was hard. And I want to say this, like, writing that book, I didn't have a ghostwriter. I wrote the thing myself. I had a coach, because you need a coach. I had a coach, a line editor, copy editor, artwork
Yeah.
editor. One of the hardest things I ever did. Now that's like my best work, is that book. And I drop that in everyone who will read it. It's humbling when people read it. But like, this goes back to how long are you willing? Because I had to shovel shit for a couple of years in that project. And Charley, it was mammothly difficult. And I would
Yeah.
write it when my kids were sleeping, even before my wife got up, before soccer practice, because you can't miss that stuff. I know
Mm-hmm.
you go to practice. Like, you get off
Oh yeah.
airplanes and you run to practice, and I see that. That's what's up. Like, you have to do that. I love that. It's so cool. How long can you do hard things for and sustain? You
Yeah.
don't have to write a book. I don't care what you're doing, but like, the listener has to go through hard things, stick with it. That's my whole theme, man. Like, just
Yeah.
try to have that grit, resolve. Because I went through things personally that running a law firm is in many ways not nearly as challenging. So it's like, we got over that personally. Professionally, how hard is this, like, money math thing to figure out? You're gonna just,
Right.
it's hard to tell, but like, you get more sophisticated, you get better with practice, I feel like. But you got to be right, man. You can't. Your team feeds off your energy,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it is interesting. I appreciate the perspective because you definitely. I mean, it's almost like there's incomparable in terms of the experience you had in childhood, particularly as related to your father,
Yeah.
compared to what a lot of other people have experienced. And yet, what I appreciate, not to hit too hard on a phrase, is you don't appear out to try and win the trauma Olympics. You're not
No.
saying like, oh, look, it's so hard on me because of that. You seem to really focus on, I went through that. That is a fact. That is part of my story. I mean, I literally wrote a book about it. But also, I'm dealing with this stuff and find it difficult. And you're allowed to say the money math is hard to deal with, and you're
Totally.
allowed to accept that it can be difficult, not just for you, but for other people.
It's so hard. It's so freaking hard. Being a lawyer is really hard. Being a business owner is hard. Being a parent is hard. Being a spouse is hard. But it's not that hard if you just, like, show up every day and get a little bit better, right? Listen to a
Yes.
podcast like this one right here. Read a book. Walking is like a superpower, Charley.
Oh, yes. Agreed on that.
Freaking love what I'm going to be honest. When I walk, I make money because I'm like, ding, perfect, great idea. I never thought of it. I just have the idea now. It's like, that's a good LinkedIn post. That's a good idea I can do with my team. That's a good idea on how I can be a better parent, stuff like that. But walking is one thing I omitted, exercise, physical health, taking care of yourself, right? The holistic thing. You can't cut corners here. There's no shortcuts. It's hard.
It is. If people want to, before I ask you the final question, Chris, if people want to connect with you, learn more about you, etc., where should they go? What should they do?
I would love to hear from you. Here's my cell phone. Call my cell. It's area code 617-956-2501, 617-956-2501. I'm an open book. I like to share with other lawyers, Charlie. I have a practice tip of the week. It goes out to hundreds of lawyers across the country. If you go to practicetipoftheweek.com, free tip.
Nice.
Because I want to share that when I give, things get better, Charlie. I used to be a taker. When I give stuff that I learned at a conference or learned at some seminar, share it, good things tend to happen. So I kind of enjoy sharing little stuff I know with other lawyers to hopefully help them out. So hit me up, cell phone. My website's chrisearley.com. I'd love to hear from you. Whatever you're challenged by, I'm dealing with, have dealt with, or will deal with at some point. So let's help each other out and support each other.
There you go. So Chris, last little question for you. You know it, the three-parter. What are you reading, watching, and listening to these days?
So I'm rereading How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Always a good choice.
It's so, my mother gave me that when I went to college, and I just reread it this past week. It was so good.
Yep.
I just discovered discovered Deep Questions by Cal Newport. It's very intense.
So this is wild. Right before talking with you here, I was recording with Bo Royal of Pareto Legal. That's what he cited as the podcast that he's gotten into. Yeah,
Holy
look at that.
Smokes. Holy smokes. Watching, I'm not a big TV guy. You ever see the show First 48 on A&E? It's like there's these murder detectives who pursue the bad guys, and I love their zeal, their hunger to change. It's really good.
My wife likes it. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm not a true crime person, but yes.
Well, that's what I've been watching. So I appreciate Charlie. I just want to share. I shared this on stage at Jay Berkowitz's event. You've been very helpful for me. When I met you and Ben, my career, I was always itching for more. And I found you guys. And I was like, and I just kind of literally it was a hockey stick. So I encourage everyone, learn from Charlie. I've stolen so much of your stuff, Charlie. It's not even funny. But thank you for all you've done to help my career professionally and personally. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Chris. I appreciate our friendship over the years and that it will continue.
Same. Absolutely.
All right. Appreciate you, my friend, and all your insight, wisdom. And of course, you really, among the folks I talk with, you are always willing to be an exceptionally open book. And that's why that Brene Brown quote comes to mind when I think about Chris, of your story is someone else's survival guide. Hopefully there's someone here who picks up a copy of Scaling the Wall. Although I'll tell you all the secret. If you reach out to Chris, he'll send you one. That's just going to be a
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah. But go and get it on Amazon, support it, leave a review on there as well.
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you.
People bleed for those types of stories. So Chris, appreciate you. And we will see you all in the next episode of They Don't Teach Us in Law School.